It's December 25th. It's Christmas Day. A few moves to talk about. Kutch is officially staying home. Merry Christmas, yins, guys. You're listening to the Bridge to Buctober podcast. Yins, guys. Thank you for listening to the Bridge to Buctober podcast, where we talk all about them Pittsburgh Pirates and that. My name is Josh, and I'm joined as always by my brother Jake. What's up, Jake?
How we doing, man?
Well, I've got like a new type setup type thing, and so I started clicking some things. I'm now moving things with my left hand, so I moved some things around, and in the process, I didn't know where that music button was. So I'm just looking around for it. I'm like, where'd I put that? Found it. Okay. And now I could just fade it out because it's hilarious and all that stuff. Merry Christmas, Jake.
Yeah, Merry Christmas, man.
We got our Christmas shirts on, right?
Yeah.
Okay, hang on one second here. Let me find my Jake button here. Go ahead. For those of you who are not on video, Jake is wearing a Santa suit right now. Is it a whole suit? He unplugged his headset when he does it.
Every time I stand up.
A whole suit?
No.
It's just like a shirt with a belt buckle that blinks and lights up and all that stuff. For those of you who are on audio and didn't get the opportunity to see that, me personally, this is actually Katie's shirt, but I got my Wet Bandits from Home Alone.
Nice.
Wet Bandits Plumbing Company.
That's great.
Trusted since 1990. Chicago and New York. So we got some little Christmas spirit here, I guess, right?
Joe Pesci and Hunter Pence.
And Hunter
Pence. I broke you.
So I spent Friday and the majority of Saturday sick. A little bit like Thursday night, but or maybe a little bit Thursday, like all day Thursday. I can't remember. Either way, not feeling great. You could probably hear that in my voice, I'm sure. But on the upswing here, started feeling better last night. Mornings are still tough, but we record late, so we're good.
Yeah.
So I'm going to get through this thing. You guys should expect Jake. If Jake's not talking enough tonight, you need to say, get on it. But also, if I laugh, that means I will cough. So the mute button will be my friend and probably your friend, even more so. So you don't have to listen to that. But if I do laugh out loud, I might sound like I've been smoking for 80 years. So, well, we've got some things to get into here. We are going to have a little bit of fun throughout the day. We're not doing the whole Pirates Fan Forum Christmas special. If you guys missed that, go back and watch.
That was good.
Pretty funny. There's been a few podcasts. 412 Double Play had some fun on theirs too. I think NS9 did some Festivus stuff. Everybody's having a good time with this week, and that's what it should be, right? Yeah. This is, baseball is a fun sport, and if you're paying attention to it a lot, you got to have some fun. But the Pirates did do some things this week. There are some things to talk about.
Yeah.
So we had mentioned last week that they were going to sign McCutchen. They went in and did that. So they did it. He's back.
Done.
Sounds like he will be back until he's not.
Right.
He's in.
That's what it seems. Yep.
I would think that Bob Nutting would make sure that happens anyway.
Yeah.
Don't you think? I mean, it's not just on him.
Yeah.
So, anything on that? I mean, I know we kind of talked about it a little bit, but maybe had a week. This is still a productive hitter.
Right. Yeah. It's still a productive hitter for the middle of our lineup. It's outstanding clubhouse presence. We need that. We need the leadership that he provides. It's just a good move.
Yeah. And, I eventually there is going to be a time where you're kind of like, man, I think a lot of fans are already there. I think they're ridiculous. But I think there's a lot of fans there saying, is this really where we want to go right now? There might be a time where we say that. And it's not now, though. I mean, this is
No.
still a productive hitter. He is a good leader. And if he's not dealing with an ankle injury all season and an elbow injury all season, then maybe you will see him play some outfield. I've seen a lot of people say, well, it'll just be DH mostly. Sure, for maybe half the games, but we saw way more DH last year than I think that they planned on.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And I think there will be some mixing it up. I think he will get to play the outfield maybe once a week or maybe more often than that, depending on how he's feeling and whatever. If you need him to, is the other thing.
Right.
Now, if we've got some guys stepping up in the outfield and you don't need him, that's a different story. But I could see him playing out there more.
I would like to see him playing out there a little more.
The only thing I don't know is if Olivares works out
Mm-hmm.
and he's playing well, then you've got your lefty platoon out there, depending on maybe just your player out there. I don't know, depending on who's what and if Palacios is good or Smith and Jigba's good from the left side and they're stepping in for at-bats against righties. Do they mix that in a little bit with McCutcheon going over and getting some right field against righties? You know what I'm saying? But then, if you got to a point where you were saying, well, let's get Jack out of there. You know what I mean? And go. But the problem is right now, this team just doesn't have other options for center field.
Right.
It's Jack Sawinski out there.
Who's serviceable.
He's going to be league average. He's not going to lose you a game out there, but he's also not going to win you one. Right? He's just not. He's above average in right field, according to the metrics, right? According to the metrics, he's above average. According to the metrics, he's average center field. You won't get a lot of those maybe outs above average things. You know what I'm saying? He might not be there, but for everything considered, I think it was interesting because when he played right field, his arm was considered average. But when he played center field, his arm was less than average. We know that there are better arms in right field than center field. So how did that even happen? It has to be opportunistic. Am I right?
Has to be.
How do you end up with those types of splits?
Yeah, that doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, it's interesting. Maybe he just didn't throw as hard last year. I don't know. Maybe there wasn't an opportunity to let loose and gun somebody down from center. You know what I'm saying? Because it only goes off of what happens.
Right.
All right, well, we'll move on. And if we get into some of this other stuff, I think that may be part of that conversation, kind of leading into that. Let's stick with the transactions for now to make room for Andrew McCutcheon. Andre Jackson designated for assignment, which seemed to be part of a bigger plan the way that they said it. It wasn't just, well, now we've DFA'd Jackson, make room, but it seemed like he was probably gone anyway.
Yeah.
The way that they said it was in order for him to pursue pitching in Japan.
Yeah. I was going to say, do you think that's all it was? They kind of made it sound like it was a bigger deal. Something more common, and I guess it was just for him to go pursue Japan.
No, I don't think so. I think that what they were saying is there's more to come. I thought that there was a trade coming, and I thought it was happening this week. It sounded like it was they're in on this, but I think basically that's just the way it was reported. Probably the way that we received it doesn't necessarily mean that that's the way that it was intended to be received. But the fact that they are in on getting another starter and it's not going to be another 3-4 type starter. That's the way that it was. That's the way that it's been said. However, we've heard some other things by this front office this year about what this offseason is going to be like and what type of moves they're going to be making. And as of yet, I mean, we haven't seen it, right? We haven't seen a different offseason. Signing Rowdy Tellez for first base does not change.
That seems worse than what we did last year.
Yeah. It seems like that did not change I can't remember the words that he used, but either way, that's not a difference. That doesn't give you a different feeling for this offseason.
Right.
It's not. Man, I wish I could remember those words, and now it's sticking in my head. You know when you get stuck on something like that and you just can't let it go.
Yeah, I know what you're saying too.
The way that it was reported was, we're going to be shopping in a different part of the store. You know what I mean? Stuff like that.
Right.
I don't know if those are actually the words of Sherrington, but this is not doing better bringing in Rowdy Tellez, and that has been one of the things that I've been really questioning from that point. Granted, I don't like the signing of Rowdy Tellez. Like, I've already made that clear. I'm not a fan. However, I could be a fan of anything if they show up and play.
Right.
I can change my mind. You can change my mind. I'm not going to be stubborn to say I never liked him. I don't care if I didn't like him or if I did like him and then he doesn't do well and I say, well, I thought that one was going to work out. You know what I'm saying? Like, watch it happen. Now, you don't have to be stubborn with, well, I made a take for this, so I have to stick to it. No, you don't. It's freaking baseball. So anyway, I don't like the signing. However, this is a guy with 30-some home runs 2 years ago. Last year, he was injured most of the year, dealing with a nagging injury. We know how that goes. It is very possible that he does bounce back and hit 30 home runs. And if he does, that's going to be great for us.
Yeah.
So let it happen, right? I don't know. I still don't love it. It still doesn't feel like a big thing to me. Would you rather have had Carlos Santana here?
I'll tell you one thing I would like better about a Carlos Santana sign is knowing he's going to be able to catch the balls that O'Neill Cruz throws across.
Yeah. I haven't seen a whole lot. I know that people have said Rowdy Tellez is terrible on defense. I haven't seen a whole lot to know like how terrible.
Right. But I've seen Santana
right.
Do play well. So
the only thing about the Santana thing that did kind of get me a little bit, that made me wonder a little bit, and we talked about this. With Connor Joe currently on the team, Jared Triolo showing up last year and saying he he deserves another look.
Right.
And he deserves some time. Now, I think his best, his greatest productivity to this team will be playing all of the positions, not just one of them. But with those two being right-handed hitters who hit well against left-handed pitchers, so is Santana. I mean, he's a switch hitter, but he's better against lefties.
Right.
So there is a little bit of a, how, do you get somebody who maybe has better splits against right-handed pitchers, which is the majority of the pitchers that you see.
Right.
So I don't know, and Santana was going to be more expensive.
Right.
So, I think about half of the listeners that just rolled their eyes, right? Because I get it. You don't want to spend less just to spend less, but like in any situation, you look at the total picture there and you go to a store and you say, I really like this shirt. I really like this shirt too. And I'm looking for a shirt just to wear to the Christmas party. This shirt over here actually is a Christmas shirt. That one over there is just a really cool shirt that I'd look great in the Christmas party. But this one's actually a Christmas shirt and it costs $10 less. There is still a smart move to go with the Christmas shirt that costs $10 less. Even though you'd look great in that other shirt that's more expensive, it wasn't maybe for the app. I'm way off. You were going to say?
I don't remember at this point. Just looking player to player, not looking at what you'd have to pay to give for him. There's a little more sure thing with Santana, but you're absolutely right. I mean, the money deal is a money deal. It is what it is. I don't know.
And it's not a point. That's a good point though, because you're saying like total package, player versus player. You'd rather go with the other guy. You're done. You know what I'm saying? Like, get the best guy. Figure out the ins and outs and the platoon stuff later, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm fine with that. I think that's a great approach to it. You know what I mean? So I'm just trying to, I guess what I'm trying to do here is I try to see all the different sides of things. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, I've been clear about this. I'd rather have Santana too. So I'm playing devil's advocate here. You know what I mean? I'm not saying I agree with this signing because I'm just saying maybe this is their thought process. I don't know. I'm trying to see all the different things. That's all I'm trying to do here.
Yeah. I mean, if the power's there, I'm in.
If the power's there, it really worked out. We got him for a nickel, right?
Right. I just hoping that he's going to be able to handle those low throws, the little bit of errant throws that are coming at you at 100 miles an hour.
He's a bigger target to start with.
Yeah.
So maybe that is good. I don't know.
How tall is he?
Taller than Santana.
Yeah. Santana's like what, 5'11"?
Right.
I don't even know if Santana's got 6 foot.
No, he's not. And Rowdy Tellez is 6'4".
Yeah.
So much bigger target over there.
He's a big boy.
And really, Jared Trillo is not short either. So if he's at first, you're looking at, another guy who is going to be, a bigger target. Connor Joe's not, but if he's playing for this team.
Right.
And maybe we'll get to that. All right, let's talk about Martin Perez here because they did sign a starting pitcher, and this is a big deal. I think this happened on Monday or Tuesday. Now, granted, this isn't official yet. When it becomes official, there will need to be another move. So I'm sure that there's, it's going through the medicals and whatever else that they have to do, but it's also just being waited on. They got an agreement. They're waiting on maybe this trade that we're hearing about. Maybe once we hear about the trade, we'll know a little more about, or maybe once we, and we know who's gone from the roster.
Right.
Maybe you get 1 40-man for 2 and then other players, right? But if something like that would happen, then it's like, oh, and also we signed Martin Perez and we had a spot on the 40-man. So, but the reports are 1 year, $8 million. That's the agreement being reported. And where are you at on this? I'll let you go first as I take a drink.
Sure. This is another one. It's a little less of a reclamation project than what we've seen in the past. But it still is a little bit. You know what I mean? His last really good year was 21 or 22? 22. Yeah. 2.89 ERA and like 32 starts. Like that's good. I mean, if he can be half that and end with like a 3.90.
Oh, that'd be great.
It's going to be great.
Anything under 4.
Anything under 4 is great for $8 million.
You look around and you're seeing all these guys go, and some of these guys we've talked about that we've been interested in, maybe like a Jack Flaherty or Seth Lugo, Michael Wacha, and these guys are all going for that like 14, 15, 16 million. And I mean, I don't know what KC's doing over there. Michael Wacha, sure, but 2 years, 16 million. All right, you overpaid a little bit to get him to come there. I'm about it. Pitchers should be going there if you want to kind of bounce back. If Wacha has bounced back, there's no need to, but that's a pitcher's park. You should fare pretty well there. Seth Lugo, 15 for 3 years though. And that's the one where I was kind of like, yeah, I would have been in on Seth Lugo too. And I wouldn't have minded 15 million. I'm not sure I would have went 45 million. You know what I mean? I just think that's maybe one step too far. And it's just kind of one of those things where they were like, hey, what if we tack a 3rd year on? And he's like, yeah. Yeah, nobody else is going to give me that. You know what I mean?
Right.
How much of that?
I feel like a lot of it's got to be incentive based too.
Like it could be. It's not.
Yeah. No.
Oh, at least it's not reported to be. But
I'm like, I would be willing to maybe go to 45 if it's incentive based. Like, dude, you do well. Yeah. You'll get your money.
That's true. To me, and I I've talked about this a lot, especially this offseason. To me, it's innings. That's it. It's innings for me. If you pitch this many innings, you'll get your money. I don't care if you have a 4.50 ERA. If you're pitching innings, which means I can rely on you to go out there, and I'm not taking you out because you're blowing it up. 4.50, by the way, that's not like awful, right? If it's 5.50, that's on me for leaving you out there. If it's 4.50, you're probably giving me some good starts too.
Yeah.
Or you're getting into the sixth, you're getting to that third time through, and then you're giving up some runs. Stuff like that.
Yeah.
But if you can stay healthy, be on the mound, and give me that many innings, then that's where I'm kind of saying like, all right, that's it. That's all I need from you. In order to get that far, you have to be effective.
Right.
And there's no level of effectiveness. I'm not going to say like you have to have a 3 ERA. Then it's on me. Well, then he could say like, well, you left me in too long. No, let's just give me innings, because that's the one thing that pitchers today cannot do is give you innings. They're all weak. They throw too many balls. There's all kinds of things that I've complained about a million times, and I will continue to complain about pitching because it's terrible right now because of our terrible way to go about it. We don't throw enough strikes. We're throwing too hard, and they're not. And everybody says like, well, they throw harder than ever. Yeah, but they don't throw strikes anymore. You're 100 pitches in the fifth inning, you stink. Okay. Like, why aren't we talking about that? Oh, because the stats are good. All right. it fires me up, and the more we go into it and the more people saying, well, pitching's better now than it's ever been, I'm thinking, says who? We had like 6 guys pitch 200 innings last year. We have like Tommy John surgery is like the new thing. I feel like all the guys who are in training for baseball right now and all the pitching coaches are in cahoots with the doctors, and they're getting a kickback because all they're doing is just trashing everybody's elbows until all these people, I mean, like, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I'm going on a little tangent here, and I should back off a little bit, but it is making me mad that
you're saying a lot of things that go into my theory when I always talk about starting pitchers being starters and going deeper into games. It's not about throwing more pitches. It's about being more efficient with your pitches. It's about get the weak contact. Don't worry about the strikeout all the time. Get some weak contact. Get some ground outs. Get some fly outs. Like, you don't have to punch everybody out. Get a couple guys out early in counts and take a few strikeouts when you get the opportunity.
Yeah.
Take advantage of the hitter's mistakes. Then you get your Ks. Just try to get them to put the ball in play. 3 pitches or less. Move on to the next guy.
There's just not. I mean, it's just not. We're not throwing enough strikes, right?
Mm-hmm.
So here's a guy. I mean, just to kind of reel it in a little bit here. I mean, just when he had that good year, 196 innings. He had 198 once, 185, 165. And there's been a couple of years recently that's been 114, 141. But he's given them 22 and 20 starts in those 2 years, and he's shifted to the bullpen, which, by the way, those shifts to the bullpen have worked out really well for him.
Right.
So I'm not sure what that is, but I mean, well, lefties kind of have a bit of an advantage, don't they? I mean, they only get thrown out there against lefties who can't hit lefties, and so maybe you can get a little bit up there, but in general, he's had some good years and he's had some rough years, right?
Right.
And that's kind of what you're going to get for $8 million. But so has Jack Flaherty. So has Seth Lugo, who hasn't really, so has, I'm trying to think of some of the other examples that have been out there. I said Michael Wacha, but you kind of pointed that out to me that he's actually had a couple good years.
Yeah.
Not quite to the elite level that he was early on, but he's had some good years. Man, they're making some noise out there. And those guys are signing for, almost, in Michael Wacha's case, double, but almost double the money.
Yeah.
And this goes back to that Christmas shirt. But it's just kind of the idea is like, no, I didn't go after him because he was $8 million. But the fact that you got a left-handed pitcher who does get ground balls, who's been pitching in a hitter's ballpark and then gets to come to PNC, like, should fare well.
Yeah.
But this is the same thing we said about Quintana. It's the same thing we said about Vince Velasquez, that when he shifts to the bullpen, he is effective. So lefties fare well at PNC Park. And if we can just get them to a point where if we have to move them to the bullpen, they'll be all right.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
I do.
So where are we at here? This is interesting. Now that I've changed my look and everything, in order to look at our recording time, I'm looking there. How's that for you?
I can still hear you.
Yeah, you still hear me. That's perfect. And that's all that really matters, right?
Right.
The audio is what really matters here. Overall, Martin Perez, I'm into it as a number 3.
I'm here for it.
The reports are that there's going to be somebody traded for. It seems to be their preference to get somebody via the trade market. And I'm not going to lie, that's because of money.
Yeah.
Let's not beat around a bush. It's money. And they're acting like the TV deal is not playing a part in what they spend this offseason. And I just have a hard time believing it.
Yeah.
If you made a move for Tellez at 3.2, Perez for 8, and these other guys are dropping off at 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. You know what I'm saying? Like, these guys are going out of free agency, making that kind of money, and we're all saying, like, I know we're all sitting back and we're all saying, crap. When these guys are signing for this much, there's no way Nutting's going to allow Ben Cherington to sign 3 pitchers for 14, 15 million.
Right.
So you're wondering where they're going to get a deal. Well, Marco Gonzalez, huge deal. Okay. So then you start thinking, you say, okay, Marco Gonzalez. Now, we're not 100% sold on this guy either. We know he can be good. We know he's got some kind of nerve damage or whatever. Is he going to hold up? I don't know. But either way, he's really cheap because the Braves, for whatever reason, are deciding we're going to go way over the threshold by paying for players who don't play for us.
I don't know what they're doing.
It's absolutely silly. But either way, you got your deal. So it's like, okay, well, let's say 3 pitchers, 15 million. You just signed 1 for 3. So do you go 15? Do you actually go further up to the 18, 20? Do you go out and you get a guy who's better? The problem is, who is that? Who's 18, 20? Lucas Giolito. I like Lucas Giolito. Still probably not what I want for number 2. He's kind of a bounce back. He's a little more sure, but kind of a bounce back. Maybe like a step higher than Michael Wacha, maybe. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Because he could be really good. I don't know.
But he just had a horrible showing in Cleveland.
Well, he had a horrible... He went to L.A., to Anaheim, really. He went to Anaheim. Yeah. And they broke him because they do that with every pitcher. But what he did in Chicago last year was good.
Yeah.
And then he went to the Angels, terrible. Cleveland, terrible. And you know what? To be honest with you, probably ticked off at Cleveland. Right? I mean, the Angels put him on waivers because they had a chance to pitch for a contending team. And Cleveland went in and grabbed 3 of their players, basically blocking them from going to a competitive team. So, yeah, I'm sure they were all ticked off about it. You know what I mean? They had a chance to go somewhere else. But that doesn't mean you pitch bad for them, but you know what I mean? Like, if you're not unhappy, you're unhappy.
Right. It's going to show in your results.
Right.
Performance. Performance was the word I was looking for.
There you go. So I don't know. It depends on what they do with this trade. If this trade can come back and get us a number 2 starter, a legitimate number 2, then I'm happy with Martin Perez and even Marco Gonzalez. And then I'm happy with that last spot being a competition in spring. Because I'm going to tell you one thing. Roansy Contreras might only last the spring. If he doesn't come into the spring and earn that last job, that last spot, he's DFA'd. Because he doesn't have any options. And I just don't think he's going to just get it. Right? That job's not his.
No, no, it's not his. He's gonna have to earn it. But the thing about it is, even if we DFA him, we still might not lose him.
Well, I guess not DFA, right? Just send him down, which would he'd have to go through waivers.
Yeah.
You don't necessarily have to even take him off the 40-man if he clears waivers and goes, right? I don't know what the deal is. I don't think so.
I don't know.
Yeah. So anyway, maybe
I'm not good with that stuff.
I guess that is still a signing. I don't know. Either way. Why wouldn't you, though?
Right.
If he's got to go through waivers anyway.
Right.
You just get him out of the way. You might have somebody that you invited to spring training. They also just signed, who was it? Jake Lamb, and invited him.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I don't care. Billy McKinney. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's those guys they're going to have on the roster that they're going to invite to spring, and they're either going to make it or they're going to go away or whatever. You know what I mean? I don't know. But I'm not getting hung up on those guys until they show up at spring training and rake, and then I'll be like, hey, wait a minute, guys. Might want to pay attention to this feller. Anyway. Yeah, I think the trade market there, here's what I will say about the trade market, and then we'll move on. There's been a lot of talk about Dylan Cease. There's been a lot of talk about Luis Robert. Chris Getz, the GM of the White Sox, you remember Chris Getz from when he played. Dude, he's not happy with a little bit. He wants a huge haul. And this was talked about when the Reds were going to get him. And they said, they just want too much. And then they went out and they signed Heimer Candelario, to which I thought they did that so they can trade away one of those young Encarnacion Strand or Noelvi Marte. They're going to package them in this deal now that they got Candelario for corner infield, right? And then they're gonna push for Cease. And I don't know if that's gonna happen. I mean, it doesn't seem like they've moved on it, which makes me feel like, man, maybe they really are going like really strong. And there was a report out today, and I can't remember what it was, about the players that needed to be included in a Cease deal. And man, I got to tell you, it's looking a lot like Brian Reynolds' situation. When everybody's like, they're asking for way too much for Brian Reynolds. Well, that's because they want to keep him.
Right.
And it feels a lot like that. They've already said that Luis Robert, well, first it was like, well, he's untouchable. He's not being traded. And then they was kind of like, well, I mean, not untouchable. And then now the reports are like, he's pretty much untouchable. So, like, you're not getting him. He's as untouchable as Brian Reynolds was, in a sense that they're not motivated to move him at all. And it doesn't sound like they're the same, or they're not too far away from that with Dylan Cease. They just don't need to.
Right.
I don't want to trade with a team like that. You're almost always going to give up a lot, and probably more than you need to.
Right. It may end up being too much and actually setting us back when we're ready to take the next step forward. Like, we're taking a step forward now. We go to take the next one, and it's like, where's the next wave? Well, we traded them all away.
Yeah, and I'm not afraid to get rid of prospects. That's not what I'm trying to get across here. I'm just saying, like, you could get another guy at that echelon from another team who's motivated to move instead of motivated to keep. And the Miami Marlins are that team. They've got a surplus at pitching, and they need help.
Yeah.
We seem like a team that can help them out. They've got a guy in right field who's a left-handed hitter who cannot hit lefties. Here's Connor Joe. He's going to be great.
Yeah.
And I would like to keep Connor Joe, but with Oliveros coming in here and you're thinking maybe this guy's going to work out, and if he doesn't, you do have McCutchen that can help out against lefties out there if that's what you need. I think that you're probably in a decent position to say, let's move Connor Joe because he's valuable. He just had a great year.
Yeah.
Specifically against left-handed pitching. He'd be a great fit in Miami. Obviously, it takes more than that. You're looking for, if it's Luzardo or Cabrera. It's Cabrera, right?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, just had like a blank moment there. But I think it's Luzardo. I think it's a lot of people. Could you imagine 3 left-handed pitchers at PNC Park? That'd be great.
Right?
That'd be
What was
great.
the last time we had 2 was Locke and
Oh yeah, we
Liriano?
just went over that on Thursday when we were watching
Yeah.
them. Yeah, it was Hap, Locke, and Wandy, or Liriano, Locke, and Hap, or something like that. I
Something like
forget,
that, yeah.
something like that. But that wasn't, obviously going into the season like that. But that'd be great. Lefties farewell at PNC. But either way, it's obviously like Connor Joe helps that deal because they're not going to deal with somebody who's not giving them major league help. So my notifications are on. Yeah. So anyway, let's talk about another trade and let's do some Christmas stuff. But before we do, let's take a break because I need a drink. And so let's take a break for a second. And we're back. 3 years ago today, the Pirates traded Josh Bell to the Washington Nationals for Will Crowe and Eddie Yean. A lot of people talking about this. And we kind of talked before we hit record here and said, boy, that's really getting a lot of flack as the number one worst trade by Ben Sherrington since he's been here. To which I made the joke like, well, it's only been 4 years, and that's pretty, that's not like a huge statement. It's not like the worst Pirates trade in the last X amount of, right? It's just like, that's the worst one he's made, and then that's the end of it, right? And it is.
Made a whole lot.
Yeah, and that's the end of it. And it is the worst trade. It's kind of hard not to be. Will Crowe was serviceable for a minute. Really good year out of the bullpen. Other than that, not much.
Right.
Eddie Yean hasn't broke out of Greensboro. And, that's it, right? Yeah. And meanwhile, Josh Bell, you kind of said, yeah, but, what's Josh Bell done? And we decided, let's look it up. And he's done all right.
Well, his OPS plus was a little better than I assumed it would be.
Yeah, even last year, just barely over league average, but his time in Miami was well above. But it was the other 2 years, and even in Washington in 22, 21, it was a 124. 22, it was a 152 before he got traded to the Padres and forgot how to hit. So it was really, and we know that that's kind of Josh Bell. You're only going to get about half a season, and he's going to be terrible on defense. But he's hit better than all those other guys that have been terrible at defense that have played for the Pirates. So, yeah,
right.
I absolutely would have kept a hold of this. The idea was you get rid of him and you replace him with a capable body. We didn't do that.
No.
And we got nothing for him. I much rather would have just kept him on this roster and let him go to free agency.
Yeah.
Sure, Will Crowe was fine for a minute, but you could have got anybody that would have been fine for a minute.
Yeah. Some of those trades, I just in my head without looking anything up, I'm like, that wasn't terrible. Then you start digging it in, and I'm like, that was a bad trade. That was not good. It's hard to tell sometimes as a GM though. I know that's their job and they should be able to tell.
Yeah.
But the players have to go out and do their job.
Well, I was talking.
If they don't, then you look stupid.
That's true, but there's also I was talking to a friend of mine who's a Guardians fan, and we were kind of talking about how well Cleveland has done with their development of pitching. Mm-hmm. Until I started looking into it, and I'm not I don't want to take anything away. They certainly are developing pitching well, but I was surprised to see how many of those pitchers, Corey Kluber included. That's really difficult to say. Was traded there basically. Do you know Kluber only pitched 7 games in the minor leagues for Cleveland? I just assumed he was another guy that they developed, but he wasn't. They got him in a trade, and he came over from the Padres, and Westbrook went here, and Ludwig went here, and there was a 3-way something or other going on. And either way, He pitched 7 games in their minor leagues, got called up. The rest is history.
Mm-hmm.
And Clevenger came over in a trade, and he barely pitched in their minors, and he was pretty good. Trevor Bauer, who had already made his debut, right? But he had come over and he pitched some in the minors and came up. And there's been several guys that they've gotten pretty close to, or right after they made their debuts that have pitched really well for them. Once again, that doesn't speak anything about their development system. It
Right.
might say something, but one thing I will say is they're also really good. I didn't know this. Found this out when I was looking this up. But they're also really good at, oh my gosh, evaluating players. That's what I want to say. Very good at, like, when they're looking for a trade, they've gotten the right guys back in those trades.
Yeah.
For the most part, at least in the pitching side. And they've got a good pitching coach who was there for a long time and all that stuff. So, they've got all those things going for them. And it was interesting for me to see that, like, man, they got a bunch of guys who were close that these teams were willing to get rid of and it turned them into something really good.
Yeah.
And that's part of the trades too. And when, Sherrington's looking at dealing Josh Bell and he gets back Eddie Yean and Will Crow, like, where's your player evaluation in that deal and who you're bringing back? And that's got to count for something, right?
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, this is one deal out of the group, but we heard a lot about Hudson Head. We heard a lot. I mean, Marcano, he went for twice and finally got him, and now he's back with San Diego. There are some guys that that he's kind of been stuck on, I guess you could say, or that he's acquired that have been maybe not as good. Miguel Yajure, Escato hasn't really moved. You say good things about Andy Rodriguez. You say good things about, some of these other guys, even Leo Piguero. You know what I mean? But it hasn't been quite as successful. And Will Crow, Eddie Yean might be probably the biggest and best example of that.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. To clear my throat here. So let's have a little bit of fun. You want to talk Christmas?
Yeah. We got, which one you want to do first?
Let's do Christmas tree.
Okay.
You want to set it up? I can take another drink. Do you know basically what we're setting up?
Basically, yeah.
right.
When do you set up your Christmas tree? When is it time to set the Christmas tree up? When is it time that you just it's time to take the Christmas tree down, move on from Christmas.
General rule of thumb, what do you got? Just like general.
After Thanksgiving.
Okay. Is that a has to be or not until?
Not until after Thanksgiving.
So the earliest.
I like to enjoy Thanksgiving. I'm sorry, I don't like to skip Thanksgiving.
Yeah. If you're hosting Thanksgiving at your house, is it something where you say, like, yeah, you know what? I'll put it up for that Thanksgiving dinner, maybe as like the kickoff of the Christmas season or something. Is that maybe okay?
That's fair.
We've
because
seen both.
I'm thinking back on it now, and every year that we went to Ashley's great grandmother's house, she always had her tree up on Thanksgiving.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. Yeah, I mean that's an interesting. I'd be okay with that. I'm okay with that.
If you're not hosting, though, you wait until after.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's where I'm at. But I could see that if you're hosting and you want to say, like, well, we kind of see this as kind of the Christmas season kickoff or whatever. I could see. I think that's a line I'm willing to cross. Not before that. Now, we did it before that this year because Katie was having surgery. And we were
so
like,
you got it up before.
We got it up before the surgery and all that stuff, and it's fine. And I'm a stickler on the beginning. I'm a stickler on the beginning, and I'll go over why. But what's your takedown?
Oh, it's got to be a few days after New Year's at the latest.
So you're through New Year's.
Yeah.
So it's all the way through New Year's for sure, and then okay, now it's enough.
Or if it's dead, because we do real trees.
Oh, that's okay. So that's a dynamic I haven't thought of. I don't do that.
Which they usually don't die, but
Sure. So for us, Katie's mom's side of the family is Serbian. So there's still parts of that family that don't celebrate Christmas till January 7th because they used a different calendar for Christmas. So ours is always up through January 7th, which is why I am going to be so stubborn on the beginning of it because I'm like, hey, that's a good reason to extend it out.
yeah.
Or else it'd be like, all right, January or December 26th.
So
I'm a little bit humbug about it, a little bit.
I'm okay with leaving it up a little longer because if you're going to go through the hassle of putting it up, you might as well leave it up.
It's true. Especially if you're getting a real one. You really want to make it worth it.
Dude, we got a 10-foot tree this year.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
It's huge.
Ours is probably like 7 feet. And I'm like, that thing's massive. And everybody's like, why do you have such a small tree? I'm like, that thing's huge. Like I said, I'm a little bit of a humbug about it. It's not intentional, but I realize it when I talk to other people how humbug I am. So that's pretty good. So let me ask you this. Let's do a little bit of top 5 Christmas movies. And I don't care what order you're in. I just think you have a conversation about it, and then we'll talk a couple other things here.
So our Christmas season isn't allowed to start in this house until we are watching Elf and putting up the tree.
So Elf with the tree.
Elf with the tree.
Okay.
We just naming them off, or
yeah. I have Elf on mine now. I have like 8 movies here. We talked about doing this earlier this week. I got sick. I didn't do any of this. So right before we hit record, I was like, let me think of a couple. But I'm going to combine maybe a couple of these things. I will say this though, A Christmas Story on her side of the family, it's on all day. No matter what house we went to, it could be muted or on, but it's on. TBS all day. So that movie's been around enough that it's kind of one of those like feels like Christmas when it's on, right? But we also like Elf a lot. All right, what do you got?
I do everything I can possibly do to avoid A Christmas Story. That's probably my number one least favorite.
That's hilarious.
Anyway, Grinch. How the Grinch Stole Christmas with Jim Carrey. It's just great.
With Jim Carrey.
Yeah.
So I also have How the Grinch Stole Christmas on my list, and I don't care which one.
That's fair. That's a good point. Because
I like
the whole thing's they're all good.
I don't care if it's the classic. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
The Grinch one was good. That new one they did with whatever his face, the animated one, is not bad either. So if the kids want to watch the Grinch, I'm like, yeah, sure, we can watch the Grinch.
It's Illumination, so it's the same as like Despicable Me and all that.
Yeah,
same
it's
creators.
DreamWorks, yeah, and it's pretty good. But anyway, all of them are kind of like, yeah, I'll sit and watch that with you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also not. This is hilarious. I'm not a movie guy. So like, there is probably a moment during the movie whether I come in late and watch the rest. I'm in. If I start it with them, there might be a time when I'm just like, hey, you guys just finish the movie.
Yeah.
I'm going to get out of here. Which is why, and I'll go ahead and say one, which is why for me, it's Rudolph. It's Frosty the Snowman. It's Santa Claus is Coming to Town. Any of those old, classic, awful animation type stuff that just makes it feel like that's what we watched when we were kids. So like, if I want it to feel like Christmas, I don't want something new. I want something old. I don't know if that's weird.
It's not weird.
So that's why I say like I combine a lot of my things, like because those are just like any of those. I don't care which one it is. You know what I mean? Just any of those old things. I actually enjoy just seeing the old like claymation or whatever it is, and just saying now it kind of feels there's a little nostalgia in there, which I think without nostalgia, I think Christmas kind of gets a little bit lost, right? I think you need some of that nostalgia for it to feel like Christmas, I guess. I don't know. There's something about memories and stuff on Christmas.
So I'll go ahead and throw a couple out there and let's move this along a little bit. The Santa Claus and Home Alone.
Okay.
Santa Claus with Tim Allen is just great. Home Alone, classic.
Home Alone and Home Alone 2.
Yeah.
New York and Chicago.
Yeah,
Like,
they're both good.
I mean, the Wet Bandits, right? I mean,
Right,
those right
right.
there are, I think, as far as like actual Christmas movies, though, those are the ones I could probably enjoy more than anything else on this list. Or I can just sit down and say like, I'm actually going to watch this. Like I enjoy, I mean, it's hilarious. So it's different. It hits different now that you're an adult because I remember looking at Katie even this year and be like, these guys have died 4 times. Like they'd be dead if that actually happened to them.
Yeah. Take an iron to the face.
Like these guys would be dead and they're just walking around. Yeah, I like White Christmas. I haven't watched it this year. I won't go out of my way to watch it. But if I've got a day where I've got nothing else to do, it's once again, it has something to do with it being old.
I've never seen it.
Yeah.
Never seen White Christmas. I've never seen, was the other one, Miracle on 34th or something like that?
Yeah.
Those are the two of like just the classic Christmas movies.
Yeah.
Never seen either one.
I like Bing. Anyway, the only other one I have on my list, I think that rounds out an actual 5 for me, is A Christmas Carol. And I think, once again, I don't care which one.
Yeah.
The storyline of Scrooge and the whole thing, I mean, I just used humbug, but the whole storyline, the ghost, I've seen creepy ones, I've seen Mickey Mouse ones. I like them all. Other than the Muppets, I would say I'm out on the Muppets. I know some people are like, I love it. And I'm like, I'm not interested. Not interested in the Muppets. All right.
To round mine out, is it 4 Christmases? Love that one with Vince Vaughn.
Once again,
and
it's good,
and 8-bit.
Right? I don't know what that one is.
8-bit Christmas. It's got I can't think of his name off the top of my head, but he's been in other TV shows and stuff like that.
Is it new?
It's newer. Yeah, so, I think it was 21.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I mean? Like that. Oh, that's brand new. Mm-hmm. You tell me something came out in 2010 and I'm like, that's new for Christmas. Like I'm sitting here calling out these things that were in the 40s and 50s. Right. And you're like, it's not real new. It's 21. 1921. I said not
brand new.
Yeah, that's brand new for Christmas. That means it's only like 90 days old. Because you're never going to watch it after Christmas and you only get like 30 days before Christmas that's acceptable to watch a Christmas movie.
8-bit's pretty good though, because it kind of takes me back to, getting the Nintendo is the big Christmas gift from that. It's getting the Nintendo.
I've never heard of it. I'll have to look it up on Wikipedia and act like I watched it. I just don't watch. I was like, I might watch. I can't make any guarantees with movies.
Right.
That's why the Rudolph and stuff like that. Like, give me 45 minutes to an hour, and I'll be like, yeah, I'll check it out.
Yeah.
Anything over an hour, I'm like, that's a real commitment, man. Is there a good point to pause it? I can watch it next week. But anyway, speaking of commitments, 40-man roster. Back to the Pirates stuff for all the people who stuck around through that. 40-man roster is, or not 40-man roster, actually. We do have, once Martin Perez is brought in, another move needs made. We talked about that. What I'm looking at now is going into the spring, you talk about, okay, who's actually on this roster? Who's actually going to make this team? Because we've named a lot of names. And if all those people were on the field, we'd have more than 26 guys.
Right.
So you get 13 pitchers, you get 13 position players. And at catcher, you got your first problem already. If Davis is a catcher, you have DeLay and you have Ollie Sanchez. And quite frankly, Ollie Sanchez has no options. And DeLay has 2, but DeLay was good last year as a backup. So there's a decision to be made right there. I don't think with Endy hurt, I don't think you're carrying 3 catchers. Which the outfield and the infield group is like, okay, that's probably good for me. If you're one of those players, right? Because now there's going to be a spot for you. Cruz is going to be on the team, right? Hayes is going to be on the team. Tellez is going to be on the team.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got Triolo, Peguero, Gonzalez, and Bay. You can only take 3 of those 4. Now, I guess there's a situation where you could take 4, but then the outfield group would even look more difficult.
Mm-hmm.
So just for the purposes of this exercise, Triolo, Peguero, Gonzalez, Bay. Triolo seems like the the one that has the best shot of making this team, even though I don't think he has the best shot of having a starter spot.
Right.
Now,
But he's got the best shot of filling a bunch of different roles.
yeah, because I think his defense is so good, and because I think that if he's a part-time player, he's going to be effective offensively, and he still has a shot to win the second base job.
Yeah.
Now, let's be real. He's got a shot. That position is open.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's a position that needs filled in free agency by any means. We have 4 guys that will be competing for that job as of right now.
Yeah.
And when you look at your options and things like that, you do have some players with options and some players without. In this case, they've all got at least an option. Triolo's got 2. Peguero only has 1. Bay has all 3. And Gonzalez has 2. And I guess Alika Williams as well, right? He's still there.
Yeah, he's still here.
We assume maybe he won't be, but as of right now, he's still there. So, for the purposes of it, he's got 3. He'll probably have one of those exercised or he won't be on the roster, but that's neither here nor there. The thing is they've all got the ability to be sent down. If today that decision was being made, how do you shake that up a little bit? Like, how do you think that shakes up? I like Triolo. I'll say this. I like Triolo at least as a bench role playing third, first, and second. And my goodness, I wouldn't even be afraid to look at him as short.
Right. Yeah. It's going to get tricky. Luckily, they don't have to make this 26-man until the end of spring, right? Because it's almost impossible right now. You gotta let this battle play out before you can really say, I'm not naming any names. I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm not making it. I'm wrong too much. I'm just not doing that.
Yeah, well, I guess
I gotta see him play.
Sure. Ji-Hwan Bae gives you somewhat of an option to play outfield as well. Even though it's going to have to be a lot better than what it was.
I think they need to just make him an outfielder, call it a day.
You make him an outfielder.
One of the two. Pick one. Let's not bounce him back and forth. He's not good enough.
His glove is probably better in the outfield. His routes aren't, but that's a skill. You can learn that skill.
He's fast.
So he's got that. His arm is better in the outfield than it is in the infield. Just because getting a running start, he can throw the ball hard, but he can't turn a double play. He can't throw the ball to first base on a double play.
Right.
So, to me, I think that Nick Gonzalez got the worst end of the deal. He got the least amount of at-bats last year. I'd really like to see what a, early first-round draft pick can do given some time. Let him fail a little bit and see if he can make adjustments. I don't know how much of that you do now. Last year really would have been a better time to do that, and he just didn't get the time. And it wouldn't have bothered me that much. There was a lot of guys to get time. And until Castro was gone, it made it even harder. You know what I'm saying? And you got the Marcano injury that maybe could have gotten him some more opportunities. But they just doubled down and gave Bae 3 times the at-bats that they gave to Gonzalez. And I think maybe you split that in half and get Bae out of there. I mean, it got to a certain point last year where he wasn't even able to run the bases.
Right.
He was in his head. And he could have really used time in AAA.
Right.
And they just kept throwing him out there. And so maybe that means they like him. But oddly enough, of this group, Bae might have the most value in a trade. Because of that speed. Because he has something that is elite.
Mm-hmm.
That I feel like if you could just get him to stop chasing pitches out of the zone and stop swinging out of his shoes, maybe he'd hit the ball more often And with that speed, that's what you want. Which, by the way, this is the second time I'll bring up Miami. But what a fit.
Mm-hmm.
Get him around Luis Ariz. Luis Ariz was in the bottom 4% of exit velocity last year. Like, he can't hit the ball hard, basically, because he's not trying to. And because all you StatCast heads, I love StatCast too, don't get me wrong, but exit velocity is not everything.
Right.
And sure, you're not going to flirt with 400. Luis Ariz is obviously the best at that. You're not going to flirt with 400, but my goodness, I think Bay would be happy if he flirted with 300. He's not even there, right? So
right.
Take a little off your swing, slap the ball around, steal bases, and guess what? Luis Ariz isn't a good fielder anyway. Ji-Hwan Bae could turn into a player similar to Luis Ariz, just not an all-star, and be an effective player for people. He's way faster than Luis Ariz too.
Right.
So could he be something like that? Yeah, probably. And getting around Luis Ariz, maybe you could turn him into that.
Sure.
I don't know why that guy. Somebody said I could see Ji-Hwan Bae hitting 10 home runs. I could too, but I wouldn't want him on my team if he is, because he's doing all the wrong things. I'd much rather see him have 2 home runs, and they're accidents, because I don't want him trying for it, because I think that he would be a way better hitter if he stopped doing that. And, you know, that's all. That's all. Which means trade him.
Yeah.
And watch
I'm
him
here
be
for
good
that.
somewhere else. I don't care. That's fine. I'm going to say that a lot about the guys that I'm saying trade, but you've got to have pieces to trade. And that's getting 2 guys off of your 40-man right away.
Mm-hmm.
Joe and Bay. And now we're just talking prospects. There's a lot of value. Getting 2 left-handed hitters going there, it's something they need.
Yeah.
Moving on. The outfield's not much different. With the outfield, you've got McCutchen, we're saying McCutchen for outfield. Whatever. But we're saying McCutchen.
Right.
McCutchen, Reynolds, Sawinski, pretty safe bet that in some way with McCutchen at DH. Those guys are going to be playing. And then you got Connor Joe and Edward Olivares and Josh Palacios and Kanan Smith and Jigba. So, and I'm really kind of going to put Palacios and Smith and Jigba as the lefties. We'll see if Smith and Jigba can actually put it together. Let's see if Josh Palacios can repeat putting it together.
Right.
They both have an option left, so they don't have to make this team. I think that's one thing that we forget. They don't have to make this team.
Right.
If there's another lefty out there that you think you can acquire, don't be afraid to do it. I don't think either one of these guys are guarantees, and right-handed pitching they're going to get the majority of the at-bats.
Right.
So I think that this is important to get right. You can't go out there saying, well, we got Palacios and right against righties, and whoa. Let's back that up a little bit. And I started looking at the numbers here. And if Bay does not make this roster, and I'm going to go with him just because he has 3 options and everybody else has 2, and Gonzalez and Peguero and Triolo do. And then you look at the outfield, and you've got McCutchen and Reynolds and Sawinski. You've only got 2 more in that group. Connor Joe's in. He does have 2 options, but he's not going to get sent down.
Right.
Which means now you're looking at Olivares or... All right. Anyway, I actually have a scenario where Palacios and Smith and Jigba do not make this roster, which doesn't make any sense because you need a lefty out there.
Right.
But I'm just saying, you could spin it that way. When they go into spring, if you've got these guys doing well and those 2 guys not, you're without a left-handed hitter.
Yeah.
So I think that there's like some weird things here with this roster. When you start saying, you look at everybody in a vacuum and you're like, this isn't shaping up all that bad. But I'm going to tell you another thing is, and let's say outside of Smith and Jigba, who hasn't done it. Palacios had a good run.
Yeah.
But is that maybe where the focus should be? And I've heard a lot of people say, go get a center fielder, go get a center fielder, go get a center fielder. Stop saying Luis Robert. It's not going to happen, but I'll listen to anybody else. I think it's a waste to say somebody like Harrison Bader. Sure, he's defensive, but guys, we need to score runs too. And if you look through this lineup, we don't have like a guaranteed section of this lineup that's going to score runs. You've got to get some kind of production from everywhere. And Harrison Bader just isn't getting it done right now. Michael A. Taylor, I don't even know why this is being brought up for me. I've never liked that player. And so I just don't know. But like, I don't see how these guys are fixing any problem. What they do is they put Jack Swinski in right field, which gives you your left-handed bat in right field and a better right fielder in that scenario. However, now you just created the same exact hole in center field, but better defense. You got to fix offense first. And it almost makes me want to, unless you get a good hitter in center field, then it has to be a left-handed bat. And Bader and Taylor, that's why I don't like Bader and Taylor both are right-handed hitters. They don't fix any problem to me.
Yeah.
If they can't hit left-handed, you're not moving Jack to, you know what I'm saying? Like, right now,
I get it.
If they hit as good as Palacios and Smith and Jigba, then all we're doing is just putting better defense out there, which I guess is fair.
Yeah.
You're putting better defense out there. But it's killing some of the platoon stuff. And unless you're saying you want Jack Swinski to be a platoon player all the time, I'm kind of out on that. I think you need to give somebody some years before you full on platoon them.
I agree with that.
I know. I figured you would. So anyway, there's some decisions to be made.
Absolutely. And they're not 100% laid out easy decisions, but
we didn't even talk pitching. And because of time, we're not going to. We need to get a number 2 starter. But I started with offense here because there's some guys that might not make this team that you're thinking, yeah, but they have something to offer. You know what I mean? And so it's now, instead of like, well, we've got this guy on the roster and he's terrible and he has nothing good for us. We don't have that problem right now, which is a good thing.
Yeah.
But it would also be better if we had like up, like if we could step it up a little bit.
Yeah.
But the pitching staff, there's a little easier decisions. Like, go with that.
Yeah.
All right, let's wrap this thing up. Christmas music for the real ones. You got any Christmas music that you like? Are you a Christmas music listener?
I am. I enjoy Christmas music this time of year. And 2 of my favorite songs right now are Run Run Rudolph by Project 86 and Christmas in Killarney by Wren Collective. 2 way different ends of the spectrum.
Polar opposites. But you've got like a Wren Collective, like European, right?
Irish.
Are they actually? Yeah, they are from Ireland.
They're from Ireland. Yeah.
So you got an Irish band, probably Irish folky type stuff, right? Okay.
Love it.
And then obviously hard rock.
Mm-hmm.
That's good. So I don't operate under songs. Like if you can't put a whole album together, we're not even talking. For me.
Both of them have Christmas albums that are very good.
Okay. So for me, there's MXPX, one of my favorite bands. They've got a punk rock Christmas album like that. Reliant K from back in the day, classic punk rock Christmas album, pop punk more, you know what I mean? A lot more poppy. From Canton, Ohio, but it's just super catchy. They did a really good job with their Christmas stuff. One that we just listened to tonight with the kids in the car and told them sing the words because they don't. August Burns Red, where it's just shredding.
Yes,
just straight shredding. They do not sing the words; they just play the melodies and stuff.
Just played that at work today.
A lot of Meadly Me's going on like that. Our Christmas record that we play every Christmas while we're opening gifts is Oscar Peterson, an Oscar Peterson Christmas. Piano, jazz, old school stuff. Once again, big nostalgia guy. I don't listen to Christmas music. Matter of fact, when I just was looking at that stuff, MXPX, I was like, they got a Christmas album. It was like one of those. And I remember one of the songs, and then there's like a couple like Christmas songs. And then they got a couple other, and I'm like, sure, yeah, I'll write them down because I like them. Reliant K from, like I said, from back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's when I listened to it. But other than that, man, put me a jazz record on with Christmas music. Put one of those YouTube videos of a coffee shop playing Christmas music and with a piano, and big jazz fan. So I'll sit and listen to some jazzy stuff at any point.
Yep. We listened all day at work today. We listened to Cozy Jazz Christmas, and it was fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm into that kind of stuff more than I am the poppy stuff that much. I will listen to Tori Kelly sing "Oh Holy Night" to hear her sing it. I don't really. It's not just because she's just phenomenal. But other than that, that's it for me. So if you guys haven't listened to those things for your Christmas music today, throw in some August Burns Red. Get a little Christmas mosh pit going on. But really, an Oscar Peterson Christmas, just can't go wrong, man. Chill out a little bit.
I'm here for it.
Yeah.
That Red Collective album's really good too.
I've never listened to that. I'll have to check it out.
It's a really good one.
So, all right, man. Merry Christmas. We'll get to hang out in a week or so.
Yeah.
Or at the end of the week, I guess. This episode will still be current. It'll be the end of the week. For everybody else, it's been a fun year. This is kind of the end of the year type thing. The next show will be the first one of the new year. Am I right?
Yes.
Yeah, it will be. So, yeah, it'll be January 1st.
January 1st, yeah.
I mean, we'll be recording it before the end of the year.
Right.
But, or at least I will. I forget if you're in or out for that one. Because you're going to be traveling a lot.
Yeah, we'll have to just see what happens.
Okay. Well, anyway.
See if we can,
that's all I got. I don't really have any, closing anything for this. I don't have any, profound Christmas statement.
No Jim Stam end of the show. That was good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good.
Jim Stam. I'm going to call him out because the real ones are listening right now. But Jim got slower and slower and slower through that whole episode Thursday. It just kept slowing down. All right. Merry Christmas, you guys.
Merry Christmas.
Let's go, Bucks.
Let's go, Bucks.
Thanks for listening to my dad and Uncle Jake on the Bridge to Buctober podcast. Follow them on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Bridge2Buctober. Don't forget to subscribe so you know when new episodes are released. Clear the deck, cannonball coming, and let's go Bucks!